What's up, Rachel? I feel like we could have done this in person after thinking about this right now.
I know. I was surprised you didn't want to do it in person. I actually have like if you ever want to, we can do it in here because I kind of have my office set up as an in-person studio. It could be better, but yeah, I'm excited to be here.
No, you
And
put work in. I've watched it happen. Like I hear
yeah,
the thought on your stories, like develop, so it looks good.
yeah,
So one thing that I feel like I'm missing. So if you're listening to this, you have no idea what I'm talking about. But if you're watching it, you can see what I'm pointing at. But yeah, same thing. It's like you can't see it, but there's like wallpaper on this side of mine. And it's very aesthetic in here, but I don't have a podcast studio. You know what I mean? But yeah, you're like 30 minutes away. So mistake on my part. Poor planning.
that's okay. We can just get coffee and it'll be cool.
Drink coffee. I know. That's the thing with me and Rachel. Like, we connected years ago from Core Nutritionals, which is like so funny. So it's been cool. And then you moved to Texas. So like, I just saw you at the gym one day and I'm like, yo, what are you doing here? Like I live here. I'm like, oh, well,
You
that's
DM'd me from the gym. You were still in the
okay.
gym and you're like, I think you go to my gym. I'm like, you could just come up to me. It's okay.
I couldn't like totally tell though, to be fair, because like I was like, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure that's her, but like just in case it's not, let me just make
Double
sure.
check. Yeah.
But that's super on brand for me to like DM you, So
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. I'm totally fine with that. I will wear that title proudly. So anyway, I brought Rachel on today because she's obviously an IFBB figure pro. She's been doing this for a long time. She's a phenomenal coach. I would trust her with contest prep and all the things, which I can't say about a lot of coaches, I feel like, because everyone's a coach today. But I've really enjoyed watching you as an athlete, which sounds creepy, but just like your transformation from not only like as an athlete, but being an assistant coach and now running your own business, and that's growing, and you've done it all while competing. And it's been really cool to see that. And it's really admirable because I talk with coaches all the time that really cannot compartmentalize prep and business. Do you ever run into that with your clients that are running businesses?
Oh yeah, absolutely. For me, I started out just as an athlete, when I did my first ever prep in 2015, it's almost 10 years ago, I was a personal trainer. And at the time I thought like, oh, this is perfect. Like I live in the gym and it's great. And then, the next time I prepped in 2016, I was working in gym management. So it was still very complimentary. And same thing when I got my pro card, I was still in gym management. And so after that, though, I transferred more into corporate world and I was in property management. And so I wasn't in the gym all the time. And honestly, what I found in that process is like that 2019 prep is that it wasn't all that different or better being in the gym world as whether personal trainer in gym management or even as a coach. It wasn't that much better being in that than it was being out of it. Because at the end of the day, like bodybuilding should add to your life. It shouldn't take place of anything in your life because outside of like another sport, right? You can't always do powerlifting and bodybuilding at the exact same time. They don't complement each other very well. So bodybuilding should add to your life. And for me, it was like I've seen myself go through many preps, many shows, everything through in different parts of my career. So 2021 was the first time I prepped while being a full-time coach. And it was also when so I think I started prep that January when I was still working in property management. I was an EA basically I was a regional manager assistant, not like in The Office for you Office fans out there. And I assisted like 10 different people at a really high level. And so it was a really high stress, like lots of moving parts job. And I had started with my former company at that point as a coach that January. And so I'd been at the other company for like 2.5, 3 years. And I didn't think it would happen as fast as it did in terms of me being able to quit that corporate job. But I quit it within like 3 months because like coaching just kind of blew up. And so it blew up while I was in prep for a pro show. And I quit the job. I went fully remote to only coaching and built up my roster. And granted, like at that time, I had been side hustle style coaching for maybe like 2, 3 years, maybe keeping like anywhere from 3 to 5 clients on at a time. And I had started coaching online, that style, like side hustle style, I think in 2019 or something like that. So I got my pro card in 2017. I very much didn't want to be that person that gets your pro card or like does one show and becomes a coach, because I just didn't want people to ever think of me that way. So I actually didn't advertise that I was coaching for years until I joined Pro Physique and started as an assistant coach with them. So yeah, I had some experience already. I had obviously like done personal training for a while. I was like good in management situations and communication. So coaching I took kind of easy to, and I had known a lot too. I'd gotten some more certifications. I learned a lot from my coach at the time, Paul, and they had a really good lead system where they had a lot of leads coming in through like various channels, and those leads would get distributed to coaches, and it was the coach's job basically to have them on a consult call, close them, turn them into a client. So I found it relatively smooth to like build that up. I definitely had some growing pains and like some hard lessons that I learned early on of like setting expectations with people, and understanding the body better, understanding different ages and different just motivations of people. That was hard. It's hard when you get a client and then they quit within the first 2, 3 months because they didn't magically lose 20 pounds, right? Um, so yeah, that's kind of the story there. Is like I was doing that, and then by 2023, so last year, January, that's when I first had like an inkling of like, maybe I want to do this on my own. Because when I started at Pro Physique, I didn't think like, all right, in 3 years, I'm going to go off on my own. I really thought I was very open to what was to possibly come. And I thought like, I know maybe eventually I would want to do this on my own, but I really love where I'm at now. And it feels safe. It feels like solid because I'm getting these leads sent to me, and I'm part of a brand, I'm part of a team. I have, leadership, mentorship, whatever.
So
And
let's
so
pause
I
there
had,
because I hold on before you tell me
yeah.
about leaving. I want to stop there because that's a really like that's that mindset that I talk with coaches about all the time.
Hmm.
Because I've had coaches kind of do the opposite, right? Which is totally normal. Not everybody wants to run a business. Totally
Hmm.
normal. But every now and then I'll get a client. I had one literally last week who was like, "Hey, worked with me for years, has built several six-figure businesses, really great functional coach." And this coach said to me, "Hey, so and so offered me an assistant coaching job, and it was a very popular coaching industry. Should I take it?" And I said, "Are you crazy? What do you mean? Like, I see the idea, but like you've built stability, you've built something cool for your family, and this specific coach has very big ambitions for course creation, etc., right?" And this coach said, "That's the whole reason like I messaged you because I knew you would kind of talk me out of it because it's really easy to get that shiny object of like I need to quit and I want to be an AC, but then on the flip side, I want to leave being an AC and start my business." Like
Hmm.
neither, in my opinion, are better or worse. They're just different, right? Like not everyone needs to run
Yeah.
a business, and that's totally cool. And I applaud anyone who has started a business and decided that maybe it wasn't for them. But in your case, people that are ACs with a very big team like you were, right? What was it? Was it just confidence or like what was it that actually gave you the, I guess, like, I don't know, I guess confidence again to state it again, but like to actually leave? Like what led
Yeah.
that to happen?
So there it was a few things, and I was like very much like not wanting to make any rash decisions, and I knew that whatever I do, I want to do it right, for not only for me and my livelihood, but for my clients, because I really really care about my clients. And so in January 2023, basically I had a talk with my boss at the time, and I asked for a raise because I was making 50-50. So that means anything my clients were paying me, I was only getting 50% of that. So, and I was like, I was living on my own. Like I was supporting myself on that. But I had gone through a good amount of like trial and error with like experiencing burnout with that, because I knew like, if I'm only making 50-50, I got to have X amount of clients to survive. And that was hard for me. And I ended up also having basically to pick up extra work. So I worked kind of, I had done EA stuff. So I was working for a graphic design friend on her business with her business. I worked for Core as well, and I still have that job now. And so I was doing other things to like make ends meet and live the lifestyle I wanted. But I knew that if I want more, I have to either increase my percentage or raise my prices or have more clients. And so I asked my boss at the time, like, I think I'm ready for a raise and I deserve one. Here's all the reasons why, blah, blah, blah. And they were like, oh, wow, we thought we already gave you a raise. And so that didn't instill confidence, but also they did give me a raise. They gave me like to up to 60%. And so I was happy with that. Whatever. It's a big raise from where I was at. Um, and they said that's the highest it'll ever go, though. So we're no coaches make above that. So if you want to make more at a certain point, you either have to raise your prices for new clients only, because we grandfathered in clients to old prices, which I totally agree with personally. Or you have to, just bring on more clients. And so they're basically told me there's a cap of 60%. And so I took that in and I was like, okay, I understand. And I just like took it as like, I'm grateful for the raise. Now I'm just going to use it. Right. Um, and then I just started thinking, what am I getting from that 40% I'm giving away? There's when I first started, I was getting all those leads and that was great. And it was like I needed that. And so I utilized that and I knew that I needed that. But now then 2 years later, 2023, a lot of people were like requesting me or they were coming in through Instagram or, they were a referral from another client that referred me to a friend. And so I thought about it. I was like, I'm going to show them that I'm worth more than 60% and see where that takes me. And that was kind of like a test for myself, like, could I do this on my own if I had the option or if I made the option for myself? So like, because that's like the biggest thing I felt like I'm giving away with that 40% is like, yes, the brand recognition, the team aspect, the systems, but most of all, it's the leads, it's the actual business coming in. So I told them, I don't want any other leads unless someone specifically asks for me. I don't want anyone. If and then at a certain point I put people on a wait list. So I like once I hit a certain number of clients and also once I hit a certain point in prep at that year, which I was in prep that year, I was going to put people on a wait list because I didn't want to take on more than I could handle. So throughout that year, I started realizing, and like, especially kind of early summer that year, I realized, like, wow, I'm doing fine with only my own leads. Like, only me is the one that's like responsible for me being a good coach and me showing people that I'm a good coach. So I also kind of like bumped up my social media and like started getting more serious about that. And like just posting more often, posting more like valuable content for people. I got better at resharing like client wins, and I created better systems for myself for my personal coaching within that team. And I showed myself that I could do it. And so I think it was like probably midsummer where I was like, I need to do this, because I was also kind of frustrated with some other things happening in the company and decisions that had been made and just like values. I'm a big values person. And I started realizing, like, not only do they not appreciate me and they're not paying me for what I think I deserve, but our values don't align. And so if I want to align with values of somewhere I work, like I either have to go somewhere else or I have to start my own thing. And I've never really been afraid of having my own thing. I'm a very independent person. And so to me, it just made sense to start my own thing. I thought briefly about like, well, I love my coach, Mark Tominik. Like he's a great guy. He's a great coach. He has a great team. Maybe I should ask him about what I should do. And I asked his advice, and um, I didn't ask about like trying to be on his team, but I did ask him like how he pays his coaches and like how he structures his business. And so like having that kind of to bounce ideas off of and learn from and see like how it might be, it really just showed me like I want to create something similar to what he has, because he is very aligned with his values and his coaches. And, I have my own values and I love my clients and I want to be my best for them. And I know I'm not at my best now because I'm in a place where I'm not aligned.
Sure. Yeah, yeah. And when we think about like what ACs are, because like I've got tons of coaches that I work with that also have ACs, right?
Mhm.
And even getting like 60% cut is a really great cut. Now, that's not me countering anything you said, but it's just the
Mhm.
fact of when you are an assistant coach, when you are an employee, a contractor, whatever, like you are limited to earning potential, right? And
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
that's the reality of it. And I think what can happen is you almost start to resent the company that you're with. Again,
Mhm.
not you, but just in
Yeah.
general, because you
No,
start
that
to
is
think,
what happened. I did
like
start
you
to resent them.
start, right, like you start to kind of resent where you're at because you're like, man, like I'm worth it. I mean, I remember when I first had assistant coaches, which was very short lived. I thought I wanted to do that and I kind of changed my mind. But I remember I had an assistant coach who um, just was frustrated with the lack of leads that were coming in and asked for 90% to go to this coach. And I said, go start your business. like, like there's never going to be like, this is not a charity, right? At the end of the day, like
Mhm.
I understand that if you're really trying to build like a company, right? And you can't give oftentimes 70, 80 plus percent. There's a million ways you
Yeah.
can get creative with pay structure, right? There's not black and white at all. But I think that's important to realize because it sounds to me like you already made the decision before you made the decision, but to prove it to yourself, you wanted to prove that you could keep up with the marketing, you could get the demand, that you could create that momentum. And so you had that runway for yourself, which is cool. And I work with a lot of assistant coaches that are working for smaller companies where it's a
Mhm.
little bit different and they just
Yeah.
kind of jump ship and that's it. But if like an assistant coach is listening right now and they're debating, right? They're debating on starting their own business. They've got a vision. They don't know totally what it looks like yet, but they can see something better for them. I mean, what advice would you give them?
Honestly, I would say like you need to you need to really know who you are and who you are as a person, as a coach and to your clients because if you don't know who you are, you're not going to be good at any of the things that you need in order to survive on your own. And so that's why it's really nice to be an assistant coach, especially as you're starting your journey because you have support. You can ask the head coach like, "Hey, how do I get better?" Most coaching teams like they should have some sort of like mentorship or educational component where like as assistant coaches, it's not just that you're getting leads and that you have an email address, it's that like you have education and mentorship. So you have to think of like what are all of these things worth that like I should be grateful for 60% or even 50%, right? But in my mind like okay, 60%, that's great. I'm happy to make that now because that's 10% raise. So, but then as I went through that year, I realized like, well, what am I really getting from that? Because I understand how business works and I understand costs of a lot of systems. I've worked in systems like my whole life in my career in terms of being an EA and just working in various industries. So like I know what shit costs and I know how money is kind of being allocated. I can understand that. So that's kind of how you have to go about it is like really think about are you worth more and what makes you worth more? If you
And
truly
have
think
you
you're worth more, like you can ask for it and say like, in my mind I was kind of showing that I was worth it at least to myself by saying like, all right, I don't want your leads. I'm going to get my own. And maybe, I had the thought that maybe at some point they will see that I'm worth getting paid more. If they're not giving me any leads, why would they need to pay me that little, right? And I just happened to come to the realization that it wasn't just about that. It was about more than that. So like advice being is like you have to know who you are and know who you're servicing and think about like how ready am I to be independent from what I'm getting from this company.
and I think too understanding because it's really easy as an AC to just view things as this is my pay, I
Mhm.
should be getting more, and understanding that like when you go off on your own as a business owner, now all of the legal ramifications fall on you. All of the risk falls
Mhm.
on you. So a lot of the cuts that may seem quote unfair or whatever a certain AC might want to say, and again, not necessarily in your case, but
Yeah.
you're not taking any of that legal brunt. Like
Yeah.
the company is at fault if anything happens, not you. And
Mhm.
so even though that feels really like needle in the haystack type of thing. Like that'll never happen. You never know. And so, especially for
Yeah, so it's hard to quantify for people,
totally,
especially people who have never like run a business or been at a high level of a business.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So I think, and maybe this is just me being more of like a risk taker, but like if you're even thinking about it, I would explore it because at the end of the day, you can always be an assistant coach again. You can always get a paycheck. But if you're thinking about it and it's keeping you up at night, go for it because cliche or not, like time is not guaranteed. Like you never know how
No.
much time we have. And you already know what's behind door number 1. If you've been there and you've done that, you know it's behind door number 1 and you know what you're gonna get, right? Behind door
Mhm.
number 2, you have no idea, but behind that door is everything you've ever wanted, but it's gonna
Mhm.
be the biggest risk you've ever taken, you know? And
Yeah.
so you're finding that out now, and of course, like, you're still in a really cool growing spot, right? Like, you've got so much left, but, like, you're an assistant coach where I remember thinking to myself, "Why though?" You know, I just remember thinking that, like, I
Yeah.
totally forgot that you were an AC. I knew that you
Mhm.
worked with him for like prepping, I think, for a bit,
Mhm.
which is what I did know the affiliation of, but it was just, you know, I'm super stoked for you, honestly. So now I want to kind of pivot into prep, right? Into
Mhm.
balancing prep. So I don't care where you're at in your business, what you're doing, but at the end of the day, these bodybuilders and their poor efficiency when it comes to balancing all of this. And as a bodybuilder myself, like I don't necessarily get it because for me, business was always number one, right? And the better my business was doing, the better I showed up for prep as well. It was kind of like they went hand in hand, you know,
They
or they
do.
just balance each other out, I think. And so I want to chat with you first about how you just compartmentalize both like the business things and the prep things because you only have the same hours as we all do.
Yeah. Honestly, I think bodybuilding allows you to be really like better at time management because you have to get your meals in, you have to get your cardio in, your steps, your supplements, like everything is literally in a compartment in your life. And so that should be able to transfer into business and how you work, like how you do things on a day-to-day basis, how you think, like process emotions even. And so I just try to like I think about what do I need to do in order to be my best. And like for my business, like I'm a big list person. So like at the beginning of every day, like I write down a list of things I have to accomplish. Some of the things are things that I write down every day. And some of the things are things that like these are projects that need my attention. And so, and sometimes I'll write those out like in advance, or I'll have like kind of a running project list. I could probably be more organized about it, but for the most part, like I at least writing it down kind of like allows me to like see the importance of it and remind myself of it. And so I know that like it actually took, I think I was at a real estate conference with Austin. My boyfriend is a real estate agent in Dallas. If anyone needs anything, just let us know. So we were at a real estate conference and they were talking about just time management and time blocking and how you can be more efficient. And I remember at the time I was thinking like I could probably have more clients. Not that quantity is like my biggest thing, but like I could probably have more clients and just do better work for my clients if I was more efficient with things. And so this person was talking about evergreen videos and how like you can have a video, say, talking about like reverse dieting or talking about PEDs or talking about, whatever it is, some subject that's a frequently asked question. And so I already had a couple of those. Like I had a how to order your suit from KH Customs, and that's a video I send to every client who starts their prep. But I thought about like, well, I bet I could do that for a lot of different things. And so that was just like one of those turning points for me where I realized like I could be a lot more efficient because I timed out like this is how much time I spend on each client for their check-in. I tend to over explain things, as you probably figured out in this episode already. And so I realized like I could probably be more efficient with my client check-in videos. I could be more efficient with like waking up and getting my morning routine started. I could do just like finding little things that I could do faster and better at the same time. And that allows me to, that was when I was in my off season. So everything as a bodybuilder, you have to set up in your off season or improvement season, because if you don't set it up and have a system for it, you're going to crash and burn when you're in prep. And you're going to be one of those bodybuilders that's like not taking clients for like 3, 4 months just because you're in prep and you're stressed out. So developing those systems for myself, the evergreen videos, the better time management, not like having periods of do not disturb on my phone, things like that really allowed me to like hone in on that efficiency in my off season. So now I'm in prep, I'm using all of the same tools, and I continue to get better because like I also recognize the progress there. So anytime you recognize a win and you count it as a win, and you realize that it allowed you to be better today than you were yesterday, that does something in your brain and it gives you a little dopamine and it allows you to just keep pushing. And it actually, for me, I feel like it gives me energy instead of takes away energy. So people ask me all the time, like, how tired I must be being like 5 weeks out. That's kind of where I'm at right now. And I'm like, honestly, I don't even have fucking time to be tired because I have so much going on, and every thing that is going on is really, really good. So I don't have the like capacity to even think about how tired I might be.
I've never met a bodybuilder who is stressed running their business in prep that actually was efficient. Like, never have I ever. Literally never
Yeah,
have I ever.
exactly.
I talk about this too, right? And like, while this is not a business podcast, well, necessarily with you, like business tips, it's still like running your business efficiently, right? And so
Mhm.
that is something, as I'm sure you know, that I talk about all the time, because it's not like a one thing that you fix, like, and then you just never do it again. It's
No.
you're constantly growing, and that's the thing with prep is most people that are prepping are doing it for 6 months, sometimes longer, maybe
Hmm.
shorter, like, I don't know, depending on your metabolism and whatever, but I know my preps for about 8 months, and so when I my last prep was in 2020, and that was my first full year in business, and I agree with you. I think prep really helps you compartmentalize because you know that you have deadlines constantly throughout the day. You have to be done by this time to get training in, done by this time to get your posing in, done by this time to get more cardio in, whatever it is, right? And the people that crash and burn are the people that are spending too much time figuring out what to focus on because they didn't
Yeah.
have a list. And
Yeah.
so if every single day you sit down at your desk or coffee shop or whatever, and you spend 30 minutes focusing on what you're doing today, right? Like, then you're already wasting time. And so,
Yeah.
as simple as this sounds, like one of the easiest things I do and still do today is whatever your last day of the week is, just jot down every single thing that you know that needs to get done next week, right?
Mhm.
And I break that down into categories. I break it down into new projects versus recurring tasks, right? Like, because what I've found is as prep gets harder, the new projects that you need to do fall off, whether that is training a team member, whether that is hiring, whether that is a new platform you want to start using on social media. And then the recurring tasks like the stories, the content, the messaging, whatever, that just starts to kind of go from 100% effort to like a 60 sometimes, right? And so, because again, you can't take on more. And so then you get stressed about it, overwhelmed about it. And the next thing you know, you're just like, well, prep is going well, I'll focus on that. And so I've seen a lot of coaches start working with me during prep and quite literally just ghost or
Fall
slow
off.
fade,
Yeah.
And it sucks because I hate that. Like, I don't want a coach to fail, but I can only get you to do so much. And so, truly, that lack of planning, if you aren't already in the habit of it, it's not going to appear in prep, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think like for me, like none of those things you said like are that are hard for people are really hard for me because I set it up. There's systems for everything. Like I have a process, so I don't have to think about like, oh, how am I going to get all this done? No, I just get it done. And I always like I have like really I have strong boundaries for myself, and I think that's something that really people get wrong and they miss is that like they look at someone, I get this a lot where people say like, I can't imagine like how much you do. Like you do so much. You have so much going on. Like you must be so stressed all the time. And I'm like, no, I'm not because I set really good boundaries. I don't go to every single fucking social function that occurs or that I'm invited to. I pick and choose the ones that I know are going to make me happy, give me energy that I actually have time for. some things I just don't have time for. So I don't always like spend a whole day with someone when I know like, yeah, technically I could because I'm a work from home coach, you know? Like I really have strong boundaries with myself, with my friends, with my even, me and my significant other, we have like work boundaries that we like really make sure that we focus on, and that helps a lot, is setting boundaries with people and setting boundaries with your clients, like with people that you work with too. Is like my clients know if they text me at like 5 p.m. or later, they're not going to get a response. And so I set that expectation when I first start working with someone. Is like, these are my office hours. This is when you can expect a response from me. This is when you should reach out if you haven't gotten a response or something like that. So setting expectations and setting boundaries with everyone around you is a really important part of time management, because nobody knows how you're managing your time until you tell them.
And prep is just another stressor, right? So, for
Mhm,
example, I see the same dynamic happen when somebody loses a loved one, goes through a
mhm,
breakup, something happens, right? It's just another life thing. And so people really struggle to navigate the consistent, which is business, when something else is thrown in the mix. Like that's normal human
mhm.
nature. I get it. But for whatever, because I see this, I've had clients get injured, right? Like something,
Yeah.
they just can't show up anymore, or prep, and they just can't show up anymore, right?
Because they're giving themselves a reason. They're giving, and it's an excuse. And that's like, yeah, it's shitty to say that you can't do that when like someone dies in your life. But honestly, the advice I give any client who has a loss of a loved one is like, obviously, I'm there for them and I show that I care. But I also remind them, like, this person loved you, and you, like, they would not want you to stop your life because of this. They would want you to live every second of your life like there's no tomorrow, because there isn't always a tomorrow, obviously. And this is a great reminder of that. And honestly, any client that I have had quite a few clients lose people this year, and it's tragic, but they've all been able to really find their inner strength and move past it because of that type of thing, because they have the support, but they also have the logic behind it of like, I can't let this stop my life from happening. And so, and you can transfer that into anything, injury, something happening with your kid, getting sick. There's like, life is always going to happen. Not, life is never going to calm down. If it's not calm now, it's not going to be calm later. I don't care what your schedule says or what you're hoping for. It's just not going to be calm.
Well, and I talk about this too, where, if you only show up in your business conditionally, it will not grow, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
whenever you develop habits and you just go all in when things are chaotic, like that is when those habits stick, right? Like I openly
Hmm.
talk about the first year in my business being right after my boyfriend passed away. Like that was
Yeah.
absolutely the worst year of my life. And what was I going to do? Just not do anything, right? Like I cried for a straight year, but at the end of the day, when I was working, I felt really fulfilled. When I talked to my clients, I felt good. In those moments, I wasn't thinking about that. And so I had to compartmentalize. Just like in those moments, I wasn't thinking about being hungry on prep because I was focused, right?
Yeah.
And so, as simple as it is, if your business is not growing, wherever you're at in business, there is either a lack of focus or effort,
Hmm.
or maybe both. We're focusing on the wrong things or not at all. And our effort is either not dialed in, not enough, or in the wrong areas, right? Like
Yeah.
it really is that simple.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you've obviously are about well, you're about to hit your 1 year. So congratulations on 1 year in business.
Yeah.
Welcome to the party. Most people don't make it here. So hell yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
Can't wait to celebrate the 5 year. Um, you've made some recent hires, right? And we don't have to go into detail, but an assistant, some ACs that are coming in, which is awesome. Full circle moment, obviously. But how were you able, whether this is you walking me through a day in the life or however you would best explain this, but just how are you continuing not just to maintain your business, but grow it during prep?
Uh, yeah, I think it's really just like it goes back to alignment and realizing like there's no time but now, Like I could wait until things calm down. I could wait until I have a little bit more like, I could tell myself that I need to wait until I have more mental clarity, but I'm a big big believer in like the body achieves what the mind believes. So if you are constantly talking about how tired you are and how hungry you are and like, oh my God, this prep is kicking my ass and everything, then like, yeah, the prep is gonna kick your ass. Like that's what it's gonna do. And everybody around you knows it because you tell them about it. If everything that comes out of your mouth is talking about how all of those things are happening, then that's all you're gonna be able to focus on. So you can't focus on your business. You can't focus on your work or your family or whatever. So it's about like not putting anything on the back burner unless it absolutely has to be there, but most things don't have to be there. And on the flip side, most things can wait if you like really can't get them done every single day that you want to get them done. So for me, I don't put a lot of pressure on myself to do things that are maybe unrealistic, but I also like believe in myself a lot and my abilities to like make things more realistic. So self-doubt is something that I really had to just expel out. Like I can't have self-doubt because the minute you let self-doubt like creep into your head and into like how you make decisions, then like you're not going to make clear decisions. You're not going to make the right ones. For me, realizing that that I needed an assistant went from like, man, I don't like these. I wrote down like, these are the things that I guess I would have an assistant do, but I would have to teach them how to do it and I would have to like check their work and blah blah blah. And then I realized that like it wasn't until I decided that okay, I'm ready to make this offer to this coach to be an AC or just another coach for me. And in order for me to make that happen in a smooth way, not only for me and my clients not experiencing any loss of service, because I take that seriously, but also making it smooth for this coach and for them to transition over because they have clients too. I want to make their clients sure that I don't make sure their clients are happy and that they think highly of the team they're joining. Right. And so for me, it was like, all right, well, I need an assistant for that. So I might as well, do this. And for the assistant, it was actually a girl, Lila, who is a client of mine. And she's also become a friend. Like we've been working together since 2021. So she was probably one of the first people I told that I was leaving Pro Physique and starting my own business. And so when I told her that, she had kind of like dabbled in coaching and things in that, but she's a stay-at-home mom and she's an amazing person. And she had time and she was just like, I'm so excited for you. I like if you need any help, let me know. And I was like, you know what? I do need help. That would be awesome. like, so when I decided to go off on my own, I actually had her do some assistant work for me. So I kind of hired her as like an interim thing just to make sure that I didn't have a bunch of extra work more than I needed. Like I needed to set up my website and I did that by myself and I, got my logo together, like got some of those back end things together. But like all of the client focused things that I needed to transfer over, like sheets and data and like all of these kind of like mundane tasks, I was like, I can teach her to do that in one Loom video and she can do it. And she's like really passionate about it, so she'll do it. So fast forward to now, as I'm like looking forward to bringing on another coach, I asked her like, would you be interested in doing the same thing you did for me, but for someone else? Because you've done it before, and then like we can kind of see where it goes from there. So she's been really just like open to like the opportunity. And like one thing she has told me is just like, I'm just so excited for you that you're growing, but I'm also excited to be a part of something that's growing in a way that I can see is like really meaningful. And so that's what kind of told me it's like this is the right decision and she's going to be great for this is because like she gets it. She gets where I'm going. She's very much like about the alignment and about like all of my values and she's not going to do me wrong in that
Yeah.
sense. So
Well, and
it
that's
just
the
made sense.
way.
And then since then, I've like found like, oh, I can never do this and I can never do this. And like, so she's going to help me with my podcast now and she's going to help me with payroll later. And yeah, so it's all worked out well.
If anyone is listening to this and they're wondering if they should hire an assistant, I want you to do this exercise called automate, delegate, delete.
Mm,
Literally write down every single thing that you do every single day, even the littlest of things, responding to
mhm.
X email, moving a Google sheet here, and then categorize it. Even if you don't know how to do it, what
Yeah.
can you automate? what can you delegate and what is a waste of your time, right? Like, because if you're doom scrolling for 2 hours, like that should be deleted. But ultimately, every single thing in your business can be automated or delegated that is not actual client fulfillment.
Yes,
I think a lot of
absolutely.
coaches just think that they need to do every single thing on their own. I can't, no, control, control. And I totally get it. Your first hire is really scary, right? And not everyone is as lucky as Rachel knowing somebody. I know my first hire, I didn't know that person and it worked out great. I had that person for years in my business. So, understanding that that first hire is scary, and a lot of coaches don't want to spend the money or whatever. But at the end of the day, whatever takes you
Time is money.
correct.
Like, that's it.
That's the thing. Like whatever's gonna take you an hour or so is gonna take them 15 minutes, maybe, right? Like it just depends. But I was somebody that I didn't want to make the landing pages. I didn't want to schedule the emails anymore. I didn't want to make the graphics. And I knew that if I outsourced that, I would get at least 10 hours a week back in my time. And with that, I got more clients, right? So
Yeah.
um awesome. Well, is there anything that I didn't ask you that I should have? I just really wanted to make sure people knew they could prep, they could run a business, they could scale a business. So let me know.
I think, I mean, I just like driving home the fact like if you're not sure about like if you're ready for something or if you're not sure you can do something, like then yeah, you're not ready. If you're really not sure, it's like, so how do you get sure? You have to like ask yourself questions and get really good at what you're doing, like that's client facing, like you said, because like if you're really good at that part, your business is going to grow. You also have to be good at showcasing it. Like marketing is a thing, obviously, but I'm someone who's like, I'm really not into like overly marketing my business. And maybe that's wrong. I don't know, but I just focus on like, how can I be better for my clients and how can I show up for them better? But also like, how can I show that I do that? It's getting client testimonials and being more like out there with that stuff and client wins and things like that. And just like relating to more people. You're gonna
That
be
is
able to
marketing.
grow if you can have really solid values and really solid just like systems. So I think those two things are probably like the biggest thing that have helped me start my business, but also like continue and start to scale it.
And a lot of coaches, I see this more so in the bodybuilding space than others, like in the Gen Pop. But a lot of bodybuilding coaches look up to really big name bodybuilding coaches and think,
Mhm.
well, if that person doesn't have to message, if that person doesn't have to send a DM, if they don't have to, why would I? And it says, well, that's that you don't have jack shit for authority build, right? And so
Yeah.
I agree with you. Some of these pioneers in the space, they never had to do that. Like I totally get
Yeah.
it. It's a real thing. We have that conversation all the time. But if you're 1 year into business right now, or you're trying to build, or in that early stage, right? Yes,
Mhm.
be a damn good coach always. That's always going to help you grow. But understand that you have to be a business owner, and a business owner
Mhm.
can market and sell their product. And so
Yeah.
spend time developing those skills instead of just sitting in those virtual classrooms learning more skill set, because that will also be a detriment to you long term if you don't ever get the clients to actually utilize the skill set.
Yeah, getting experience is number one, and like it's hard to get experience without clients, right? And like if you're on your own and you don't have a head coach giving you leads of any kind, like you do have to generate your own. So like you do that by just like showing value in some way, and like show value with like your client testimonials, your educational background, like put more educational content out there, put more just like more content out there so you seem like you know what you're talking about because you do, and more people will start to like latch on. I've had so many people like join me as a client because they literally started following me like 5 years ago and they just like weren't ready until recently,
That's a
or
real thing. That's a
we've
real
had a
thing.
few conversations in the DMs, not because I reached out to them or anything. It's just like we've developed some sort of relationship and now they want to work with me because they trust me a little bit more. So like whatever you do, whatever you put out into the world of social media, but just the world in general, is like add value to it and help people and have that be your goal and like show people that you do that and you'll be able to get there. So
I agree. I agree. Business is oftentimes a little bit more simplistic than we think. Easy, not no,
Mhm.
not that,
Yeah,
not that, but is definitely more simple than you're likely making it, right?
yeah,
So anyway, Rachel, I appreciate you hopping on and
yeah.
look at your show. I mean, I'll obviously be staring at your progress the whole time, but like you're looking jacked over there, man.
Yeah, yeah, I'm excited. I'm like 4.5, just a little over 4.5 weeks out.
Where's the
So
show at?
it's in Tampa, are doing Hurricane Pro October 19th. So
Nice. Hell yeah.
yeah,
Cool. Awesome. Well, I will put Rachel's Instagram link in the show notes. So you guys can go stalk her progress too and get inspired to maybe compete, but also just run and scale a business.
yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome.